Nations.com.
This is the Gridiron Guesser, the premier guesser in all of sports.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Guesser. Thanks for watching, and make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. Today we'll be previewing the Pac-12 and which team we guess will come out on top. The Gridiron Guesser will give you the most accurate guesses on all this year's college football action, from preseason guesses on which teams will win their conference races to guessing the winners of each week's biggest games. We don't talk recruiting. We don't talk conference realignment. We don't talk NIL deals. We simply talk about what's going to happen on the field. So if that's you, then subscribe to our channel, like this video, turn on your notifications, and get ready to pick some winners. All right, let's get this show going. Today, we're going to take a look at the Pac-12. Looks like this will be the first and only time we get to take a look at the Pac-12. So let's make sure we get the most accurate guesses on which teams are going to be competitive and have a chance to win the final Pac-12 conference title. Let's start off by getting rid of about half the conference. These 6 teams have no shot to compete for the conference title, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about them and wasting my time and yours. If you're a fan of one of these teams, you need to find something else to do this fall. I will throw this in here. Washington State. There's a chance the Cougars could sneak up into, say, that 5th or 6th spot in the Pac-12. Look for them to pull an upset or two and really throw a wrench in someone else's Pac-12 title hopes. They'll need to keep building on what they were able to do with Cameron Ward at quarterback on offense, and the defense will need to find some new impact players, but Washington State could be a team to surprise in 2023. So now we're left with these 6 teams that we believe have a chance, even if a small one, to win the Pac-12 in 2023. Sure, USC seems to be the odds-on favorite by all the big so-called experts. Oregon and Washington are the trendy picks to upstage the Trojans. Then you have the Utes from Utah, who are just sitting over there in Utah with back-to-back Rose Bowl appearances. And what about Oregon State and UCLA? Oregon State seems to be one of only about 2 teams in the Pac-12 that tries to play defense. And UCLA and Chip Kelly cranked out 9 wins in 2022. Do either of these teams have a shot to win the conference? Our top 6 teams all returned 13 or more starters from last year. These teams are loaded with veterans and could make the race in the Pac-12 the most compelling in the country. The difference between these 6 teams should be very small. Let's go ahead and take a look at our guesses for the top 6 finishers in the Pac-12 this season. Number 6, the UCLA Bruins. Chip Kelly enters his 6th season at UCLA, coming off 8 and 9 win seasons over the last 2 years. The Bruins returned 16 starters from last year's 9-4 team, including 7 on the offensive side of the ball. However, they must replace their quarterback, their top running back, and 3 of their top pass catchers. The offensive line will be a new unit this year, as most of last year's starters are gone. But the transfer portal has been good to the Bruins, adding the likes of Jake Wiley from Colorado and Spencer Holstege from Purdue. The offense averaged over 500 yards per game last season, scoring nearly 40 points per game. The numbers might not be as good in 2023, but don't expect Chip Kelly's group to fall off too much. On defense, UCLA returns 9 starters to a unit that gave up over 400 yards per game last season. So is returning 9 starters a good thing? The defense was 117th in the nation defending the pass and 105th in red zone defense. Expect those numbers to improve with experience, and UCLA has been able to land a couple of impact players in the portal that should help strengthen the defensive line and secondary. So what does all this add up to for Chip Kelly in his 6th season at UCLA? After looking like a real contender last year, can UCLA get over the hump this year? The schedule is fairly manageable. The Bruins luck out and avoid both Oregon and Washington. But the 3 most difficult games for UCLA are on the road at Utah, at Oregon State, and rival USC. The Gridiron Guesser has calculated the numbers, and our guess is the Bruins finish 6-3 in the Pac-12. And we'll also take the under of 8.5 regular season wins. Number 5, the Utah Utes. Utah comes into 2023 off back-to-back Rose Bowl seasons, which they lost, of course. Cameron Rising returns at quarterback after a 3,000-yard passing season that also saw him rush for over 500 yards. 3 starters are back on the offensive line that finished 2022 in the top 20 in both rushing offense and fewest sacks allowed. And while there has been some turnover on the running back and pass catchers, Jaquindon Jackson is back at running back, and the Utes were able to land several wide receivers from the transfer portal. Offensive coordinator Andy Ludwig directed the offense to average over 38 points per game last season. The Gridiron Guesser is guessing the offensive numbers may go down, but don't expect a major drop-off. Defensively, Utah ranked 18th in the country in rushing defense and 14th in sacks, while only giving up around 22 points per game. That group returns 9 players this season, including Kareem Reed, Van Fillinger, and Cole Bishop. The defensive line should be the strength of the defense with so much production returning, but the linebackers and secondary will work well with this unit to give the Utes one of the best defenses in the Pac-12. The schedule for Utah will be challenging. They get the Bruins and Ducks at home, but they have to travel to Oregon State, USC, and Washington. Kyle Whittingham is no stranger to tough schedules, and he'll have his team ready to go each and every game day. But ultimately, the Gridiron Guesser feels like Utah will come up a little short on a few of their road tests, leading to a 6-3 record in the Pac-12. And with a tough non-conference schedule to go along with it, we'll take the under of 8.5 total regular season wins for the Utes of Utah. Number 4, the Oregon Ducks. Last season, Dan Lanning took his brand new team down to Georgia and got absolutely mauled 49-3 by the defending national champions. So what did they do after that? Well, they just reeled off 8 straight wins and set themselves up to compete for the Pac-12 championship. If there was any doubt that Dan Lanning was the guy after that first game, I think it was erased pretty quickly. Fast forward to 2023, and the Ducks are absolutely loaded on offense. Back is Bo Nix, back is Bucky Irving and Noah Whittington at tailback, and back is Troy Franklin at receiver, along with stud transfer Tez Johnson. Oregon's offensive numbers last year were, well, they were what many of us have come to think Oregon's offensive numbers should look like. They ranked in the top 20 nationally in rushing offense, passing offense, third down conversion percentage, and were the number 1 unit in the country in fewest sacks allowed. And that really helped Bo Nix elevate his game after coming over from Auburn. The offensive line loses 4 starters from last year's unit, so it will be critical for the Ducks to find adequate replacements. So is there any doubt Oregon's offense will be just as dynamic as last season? Well, they have a new offensive coordinator in Will Stein. Stein's numbers at UTSA in 2022 were impressive. Can he orchestrate similar results at Oregon? I guess we'll have to wait and see. Defensively, 8 starters returned for the Ducks that gave up a little over 27 points a game last season. They'll need to find a way to improve specifically in pass coverage and getting third down stops. This unit ranked 123rd in the country last year in sacks, so getting to the quarterback should help the defense improve those statistics. Up front, the Ducks landed transfer Jordan Birch out of South Carolina, and he should help with putting the pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Look for the Ducks to improve on the defensive side of the ball in year 2 with head coach Dan Lanning having a defensive mind. The conference schedule for Oregon starts off nicely with 2 scrimmages against Colorado and Stanford, then a bye week before the real first test at Washington. From there, things get a little trickier with games at Utah and home matchups against USC and Oregon State. Dan Lanning is moving Oregon quickly back to the top of the Pac-12. But it won't happen this year. And, well, I Guess it will never happen since they're going to be moving to the Big Ten. Nevertheless, our guess here at the Gridiron Guesser is a 7-2 conference mark for the Ducks in the Pac-12. And we'll also take the under of 9.5 total regular season wins on the season. Number 3, the Washington Huskies. The Huskies bust onto the scene in 2022 with a surprising 11-2 season. Led by Michael Penix with his 4,600 yards of passing, Washington was one of the surprise teams in the country. This season, Penix is back and is a legitimate Heisman Trophy contender. If he puts together another season like last year, we don't have to do any guessing. He'll be sitting in New York come the second weekend in December. And the best news for Penix and the Huskies is nearly all of his top targets return in 2023. Penix should have no shortage of weapons this season as the Huskies look to win the Pac-12 title. In front of Penix, the Huskies will need to replace 3 men up front from a unit that ranked at the very top in fewest sacks allowed and third down conversions. Given what Washington has coming back on offense, including offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, it's safe to say that the Huskies will once again have a top-level offense that scores upwards of 40 points per game. Defensively, the Huskies operate with co-defensive coordinators. The defense struggled against the pass in 2022, giving up over 250 yards per game and ranked 114th in the nation. But the Huskies did rank in the top 30 nationally in sacks, red zone defense, and rushing defense. If Washington can shore up the secondary and get better at getting off the field on third downs, the Huskies should improve dramatically in 2023. The defensive line should be the strength on this side of the ball. The schedule sets up nicely to start conference play. Similar to Oregon, Washington starts Pac-12 play with 2 tune-ups versus Cal and Arizona before coming home for a big matchup with Oregon following the bye week. The Huskies have 2 tough challenges on the road at USC and Oregon State in November that will probably determine their fate in the Pac-12 race. So let's take a look at those win totals. The Gridiron Guesser believes Washington will go 7-2 in Pac-12 play, finishing in 3rd place. And we'll take the over of 9.5 total regular season wins for the Huskies this season. Number 2, the Oregon State Beavers. Really? Are you serious? Hell yes, we're serious. The Beavers are set up for success in 2023. Head coach Jonathan Smith enters his 6th season at Oregon State, where he played quarterback in the late 90s, and the improvement will continue under his leadership. Last season, the Beavers had an impressive 9-3 season before crushing an outmanned Florida Gator squad in the Las Vegas Bowl. In 2023, the Beavers add transfer quarterback DJ from Clemson. We'll just refer to him as DJ from this point on. They also return a stable of running backs in 1,000-yard rusher Damian Martinez, as well as Deshaun Fenwick and Jam Griffin. Oregon State averaged over 32 points per game last season and had a top 30 rushing offense nationally, while the passing production was rather poor at just 200 yards per contest. With the addition of DJ, the Gridiron Guesser is guessing that not only do the Beavers improve an already good running attack, but they will be able to improve the numbers in the passing game as well, as DJ threw for over 2,500 yards, 22 TDs to only 7 interceptions at Clemson last season. We're looking for the offensive production to be even better for the Beavers this season, increasing their point production and yards per game. On defense, Oregon State only returns 5 starters from a terrific unit last season that only gave up 20 points per game in the crazy Pac-12. That's impressive. But this season, the Beavers are going to have to find some guys to fill the voids left by the 7 starters missing from the unit a year ago. They ranked number 1 in red zone defense and 15th in rushing defense. They should be strong again with most of the defensive line and linebacker core returning. The secondary took the biggest hit, losing 3 of their top playmakers. While the defense may not be able to hold teams to 20 points per game, the Gridiron Guesser thinks this will be another high-caliber defense capable of containing some of Pac-12's high-powered offenses. The schedule for Oregon State really couldn't have played out any better. The conference road games are at Washington State, Cal, Arizona, Colorado, and to end the season with rival Oregon. The Beavers avoid USC, but must end the season with games against Washington and hated rival Oregon. The Gridiron Guesser likes the Beavers' chances to navigate the schedule to an impressive 8-1 record, and we'll take the over of 8.5 total regular season wins for 2023. Number 1, the USC Trojans. So, if USC fields even a marginal defense this season, the sky is the limit for this team. They are a legit title contender in the Pac-12 and for the national championship. The defense returns 9 starters from a unit that gave up nearly 30 points per game last season, finished 80th in rush defense, 112th in pass defense, and 109th in third down stops. In USC's 3 losses last season, they gave up 43, 47, and 46 points. During those same games, the offense scored 42, 24, and 45. Experience should pay off this season, as the players are now more familiar with defensive coordinator Alex Grinch's schemes. The Trojans will have to find new guys to fill the shoes of the star pass rushers from last season. The linebacker group looks strong with 3 returning starters and a couple of nice transfers. In the secondary, the Trojans went to the portal to grab Traquan Figgins out of Alabama and Christian Roland Wallace from Arizona State, and return Max Williams and Caleb Bullock, who accounted for over 120 tackles and 7 interceptions last season. The defense will be better, but how much better will determine how far the Trojans go in 2023. On the offensive side of the ball, the Trojans return Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams at quarterback. Williams will again be surrounded by talent as the running back and receiver positions are loaded, including transfer Marshawn Lloyd from South Carolina at tailback and Dorian Singer at receiver from Arizona. The offensive line is going to need some retooling, but the Trojans hit the portal again to fill those needs. Can this offense be better than a unit that scored 41 points per game and had over 500 yards of offense last season? Yes. Yes, it can. And the Gridiron Guesser is calling for this year's version to be even better than last season's. Can Caleb Williams win a second straight Heisman Trophy? Yeah, he can. The schedule for USC is backloaded. The Trojans really won't face a test until October 14th when they travel to Notre Dame. After that, USC is in for a few challenges with games against Utah, Washington, at Oregon, and rival UCLA to finish the season. Look for the Trojans to start 6-0 before the meat of the schedule comes into play. As for how many wins, the Gridiron Guesser likes the Trojans to finish 8-1 in the Pac-12, and we'll take the over of 10.5 wins on the regular season. That's going to wrap up this episode of the Gridiron Guesser. Once again, here's our top 6 finishers in the Pac-12. This should be a great year in the Pac-12 as these teams are loaded and could all compete for the conference title. 2023 promises to be an exciting season out west, and the last one for the Pac-12, unfortunately. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. As the season gets started, we'll be breaking down the biggest games every week and giving you our best guesses as to who the winners will be. So don't miss those picks, because we only pick the winners here at the Gridiron Guesser. And don't forget to check out the Gridiron Grub Master for all your football recipes. If you love food and football, the Gridiron Grub Master is for you. Check out the link below in our description. Until next time, thanks for watching the Gridiron Guesser.